Yeah, I think we've got a good crew on here, I think. Yeah, we do. We do.
All right. So what did I miss, or are we just getting started?
No, we were just kind of chatting. That's all we were doing. We're waiting for you. We don't do anything without you.
I like that opinion. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome. So, again, as those who have been here before, just please be respectful and keep yourselves on mute. I apologize for the mix-up in links, but we're here. Damn it, we're here. We're gonna have a great time. So, Coach Herrion, here we go again. We've done this a few times, but it goes to prove that you never know enough about Zoom. Been 3 weeks since we've done one of these. Can you kind of bring us up to date on where the program is and all that fun stuff as we head into the official start of summer?
Yeah, Murph, thank you. And I want to just welcome everybody again. We did this about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we had a great turnout. We had about 50 people on the Zoom, and we just felt that we were going to do it again this week, leading into the 603 challenge, just to update everybody. And a couple of really positive things from a program standpoint today is, number one, I think the biggest challenge when the virus hit back in March, right after the season ended, and the players went home for spring break, and then we've never returned. So everything at UNH went, remote, online as far as classes. I Zoomed with our players' parents last night. I was talking to a couple people earlier. It's like, we Zoom with our players once a week just to keep everybody updated, just to touch base. And when we tell the players what we know, and that's not much, we always say, now make sure you tell your parents. So when I said to the parents last night, have your sons been telling you what we've been discussing on Zoom? Everybody was absolutely not. So I felt it was important just to loop the parents in and make sure that they're in tune with what's going on. The big challenge I felt, when this virus hit from a program standpoint was, how are we going to handle the rest of this semester academically? And I would like to think, as alums, a lot of former basketball players, a lot of athletes, a lot of alums, what we stand for at UNH, we want to be really good in basketball. We want to be really good in athletics. We want to compete for championships. But at the end of the day, really our number one job with our players is to make sure they graduate. We got the spring grades back today. Our team had a 3.21 GPA for the spring semester, which is terrific for us. So I think what our kids prove is, we can have a successful basketball program, and we can win games, and we can try to compete for championships, but we also try to do it the right way. And most importantly is making sure our young men get a degree and get an education. The other thing is this, real quick, is I want, Marty Scarano, our athletic director, is with us tonight, and I want to give Marty more of this platform because I'm sure a lot of you are just probably interested in how we've been dealing with this. Marty, I think I went back on my calendar on my iPad. I told the parents last night, I think this is day 75, Marty.
Yeah.
So it's been a long stretch here for everybody. Today, I about 2.5 weeks ago in one of our Zooms, I had one of my former players who played for me at Drexel University, Malik Rose, who was a great player for us at Drexel back in the 90s, and then had a 12, 13-year NBA career. He won 2 world championships with the San Antonio Spurs. He's now been in the front office in NBA basketball. He's the assistant general manager for the Detroit Pistons. And I had him on about 2.5 weeks ago to speak to our kids because he's a guy that played in our league back in the 90s. So he knows this league like the back of his hand. And he was telling a story. We were fortunate, and this is not a storytelling thing, but it's looping it into how we're trying to keep our team right now connected from a distance. We were fortunate. He was a very good player, and we went to 3 straight NCAA tournaments back in from 94 to 96. And we lost the first 2 years in the first round, the first year to Temple, the second year to Oklahoma State. And then his senior year, we were very, very good. We had a very good team. It was our third straight year getting to the tournament. And Malik told a story to our players where the night before our first game in his senior year, we were playing Memphis State, the old Memphis State, out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Malik had a team players only meeting. I didn't even know about this, and I'm finding out about it 20-something plus years later. And what Malik said, what the team said to themselves prior to playing in the first round of the NCAA tournament the next day was, you know what, why not us? You know, we've paid our dues, why not us? And the next day we went out and played great. We beat Memphis in the first round of the NCAA tournament, and then we lost to Syracuse in the second round. So my thing is, we want to try to get some kind of a slogan and some kind of a motto for our team next year, because we really feel we've got a lot of very good pieces coming back, and we feel we have things in place to really make a run at the America East championship next year. So I texted all our current players today, and what I texted them was a picture, and then I said, in capital letters, why not us? Chasing a championship, nothing for free. We've got to earn it. Go Cats. Because, what's been from a basketball standpoint, what has been extremely challenging during this virus is this is normally a time in the spring where your players you remember as former players, this is a time where you really worked on your game and you worked on your bodies. These kids have been home. No gyms open, no weightlifting facilities. So it's a time where they're going to have to motivate themselves. And I just got about 5 texts within the last 45 minutes from my players of action shots of them right now currently working out and currently exercising. So with a 3.2 GPA for the semester, and then knowing that our guys, and all the guys are saying, they're saying, stay hungry, we're chasing it. As a coach, that really, during tough times, it's something that I think is really uplifting and exciting. So, at some point, we're going to be back together. I think Marty's going to, we'll speak about that. And so, Murph, that's kind of in a long answer, kind of where we're at from the last time we met.
So before we go to Marty, and I know there's a bunch of questions and people can use the chat function to type in questions that we'll throw in there as well. But what does it mean to your players? Do you have a chance to talk to them after someone like Malik Rose, who was in their footsteps at one point? When someone like that speaks, do you think it resonates more because it's an America East person who's now gone on to a lot of success post-career?
Yeah, hey, Murph, when I introduce Malik to our players, you got to understand, and please, this is not a Drexel story. It's not. This is a UNH story. I think the hardest challenge we have as coaches right now is trying to keep our kids motivated and trying to keep them, when you don't have, your hands on them, so to say, understanding the big picture and what our goals are as a basketball team. Because at some point, we're going to get through this, right? We're going to come back to campus, and we're going to have to go to work and start working towards winning a championship. Malik Rose had 3 scholarship offers out of high school: Drexel, Lafayette, and Rider University. This was a kid who wasn't even the best high school player on his high school team. He went to the old Overbrook High School in Philadelphia, where Wilt Chamberlain went to high school back in the day. And this kid was a self-made player. And I think the message that he delivered to the kids was, that, he said the things that we worked on 25 years ago, the way he told the kid, it works, just stick with it and it's going to work for you. So I thought the kids, it was a great message that he delivered to a much needed message, to be honest with you.
And the other thing I think you said that resonated with those of us who have kids, it's good to know that you have a team that can get a 3.21 GPA, but they still don't tell their parents anything. So that's a relief that we're not all doing a terrible job. What were the parents' what were the parents' biggest concerns? Was it different than you expected, or was it along the same lines of questions that everyone's been asking?
No, I think some parents were still not sure. Normally, what we all got to understand is I know this feels like we've been in this for 2 years. It's only been a little over 2 months. And really the semester just got over. So if this was a normal situation, our kids are just going home to get some free time at home before we would come back to summer school. We're having no summer school this summer. So we're not going to be able to bring our kids back for that 5-week session where we can start building our team for next year. They can all take a summer course. I think parents weren't real clear on what was happening with summer school. And then a big question from the parents, I said, your sons must be, they must be getting really itchy at home. And they were like, absolutely. These guys want to get back so bad. And I said, listen, we just all have to stay patient. We all have to stay disciplined. We're going to get through this. A lot of parents wanted to know when could they come back. Now, you got to understand, a lot of these players, when we left to go home for spring break, these guys have not been back on campus. And we have players with leases off campus apartments that still have all of their belongings in them. Parents wanted to know, how can we get help take care of this? So we got a lot of things that we gotta talk about and deal with. But I think it was a good meeting with the parents for sure.
All right, Coach. Well, so many questions. Thankfully, the man who has all the answers is here, the athletic director of UNH, Marty Scarano. Marty, I'm sure you've been bombarded with questions. You've probably been in tons of these meetings, but thank you for coming on here today,
Welcome.
Trying to shed some light on what has got to be, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's got to be, if not the craziest situation of your career, right up there in the conversation.
Absolutely, it is. And first of all, I just want to thank all you guys for coming on. I think it's great what Billy has done, what a lot of our coaches have done. Some of you may know Coach Mack had 3 video Zoom meetings with his alumni last week. I was on 2 of those. So this is great. This is really a fabulous way of reaching out. No, Murph, and Coach, you said it well. I mean, these are different times. This is something that you could have never have anticipated for, something no one has ever seen before. And I think we're all just searching for answers. And I think our world is much like all our personal worlds, that every day seems like a week, every week seems like a month. I think the thing that's really frustrating for us all is we don't have answers. So you guys may have a lot of questions for me. I'm not going to be evasive. I'm going to be completely transparent with you, but just know that we don't know a lot yet still. Some things are becoming clearer to us, right, in the world. Some of these things are somewhat scary. We're all hoping and praying that there isn't any kind of second wave of this, because if there's a second wave, it's going to be literally devastating, surely for sports, but for higher education in general. And I want to touch on that a little bit later and how this has affected higher education. Just forget athletics for a moment. I also would like to tell all of you that our coaches and staff have been fabulous in regard to how we've dealt with this. I'm really proud of UNH, in particular, how they dealt with the crisis immediately. We got almost all of these students at the university out of here in a timely way, in a safe way. Our COVID incidents were very, very low, and they still are very low. The fact of the matter is, I think Jim Dean and all his executive crew up there in crisis management did a great job. Likewise, I feel as though we did that in athletics as well. We got all our kids out of here. We communicated adequately with them. We're continuing to communicate with them, which is the most important thing. You know, no one does it better than Coach Herrion, but all of our coaches are really taking the spirit, if you would, of how we're going to communicate and stay linked with these kids. It's tough. I mean, we miss them. I'm on Zoom once in a while with a couple of student athletes here and there, and I'm just so damn happy to see their face and hear their voice. They must think it's a little peculiar, middle-aged guys like us saying, hey, it's great to see you guys. But it's real. It's very lonely. It feels as though that there is, you know, it's Groundhog Day. We're doing the same thing over and over. I was on 4.5 hours of Zoom calls with athletic directors and leagues today. So just so you know how our industry has attacked this, we have 4 actually great commissioners in our respective leagues. All of them have dealt with this very well. All of our colleagues, all of our comparator institutions, my colleagues as ADs, we've been linked at the hip, if you would, during this whole thing. We're trying to process this. We've got beyond the initial crisis and all of the anxiety around that and the incident of COVID and how it's spread and all the protocols. We're still very vigilant about that. But what we're starting to do now is really turn our attention to the fall and obviously to the winter in regard to basketball and hockey. And we're modeling every single day. We're modeling based on what we know. And I think that's the most important thing as a takeaway tonight is what we know literally is still shifting day by day, certainly week by week. The trend right now is looking good in regard to at least this area, in regard to New Hampshire. The other thing I'd like to tell all of you is we're going to be governed very strictly by Governor Sununu and the crisis management team in UNH. So Marty Scarano, Bill Herrion, Sean McDonald, Robin Balducci, we don't have a say in this matter. We are going to follow the orders in regard to what's in the best interest of not only our student athletes, but in the entire student body at UNH. And I think this is where it's going to get a little dicey. And I've talked about this with Billy and some of my coaches, is that you guys are going to see other schools starting to return to campus in regard to voluntary workouts. The NCAA, as you might have seen, starting June 1st, is going to allow athletes to return to campus to do voluntary workouts. We're not going to do that. That's not in the offing right now. And I need to take my orders from the state and from the president, and my coaches will do likewise. So I can't tell you unequivocally the athletes will not be up here at any point during the summer, but it's quite likely that they will not. I at least have a great rapport with Jim Dean and with the executive management team, of which I'm one. And I just literally asked them today, let's have a dialogue. If everything trends well in regard to COVID, let's all hope that that happens. And let's see where we're at 15, 30 days out. Because right now the official line is no one's returning to campus this summer. There are no camps. The facilities are closed to include athletics. And it's been hard on the coaches. Billy and I have had a lot of discussions about this. You know, our basketball kids are gym rats. They want to be in that gym. They are clamoring to be in the gym. And it's very hard, I know, on our coaching staff to keep fending off the kids. But as Coach just said, we have to impart on them and their parents, listen, you have to trust us in this regard. We're doing what's in your best interest and what's safe. And the fact of the matter is, if they came back here and we had incidents, then it jeopardizes everything. And that's a heavy responsibility. I've said this to all of my staff, you know, the strength and conditioning staff, our athletic training staff, obviously all of our coaches. We're 525 student athletes. We're about 120 employees and support system. So that's almost 700 people. We're a sub-community of the greater community. But quite likely, we're the most vulnerable because we're in closer proximity for more hours of the day. We're certainly the most publicized, highly visible entity of the university. And if anything happened down here, it's going to resonate for the whole university. And Jim Dean and I have had that discussion, and we have to be sensitive to that. That if we brought back our athletes and put them in an untenable situation and we had a COVID outbreak that was in athletics, and we either had to send kids home, forfeit games, collapse seasons, that could in turn become an institutional or a statewide embarrassment. So that's one of the things that we always carry around with us is the public perception of what we do. And I think there are a lot of big time, so-called big time schools out there that are struggling with that. The problem, guys, is that they are so reliant on their football money that they have to forsake some of that. I mean, there's a sense of desperation among the Power Fives to get back and play. And they have to get their athletes, in particular football athletes, back early enough to be able to play on that opening weekend. So it's a very interesting endeavor. It's very difficult and daunting. But I just want you to know we're all working really hard and we're all communicating really well at the university in regard to how to do this. So Murph, I would open it up for questions for sure.
Going back to the idea that the Power Fives are itching to get back, and the NCAA has said June 1st it can get back, and the sky is falling prognosis says if there's no football in the fall, everyone is doomed. If I'm hearing you correctly, that is not anywhere near the way that our conference constituents are approaching this.
No, we're modeling, like today, for example, we had a 2-hour CAA football conference meeting. We're modeling different scenarios. One scenario, but it's unlikely, is that the season will be just as it's scheduled. I don't particularly see that happening. There's another model where we move the season back arguably a month and start generally around October 1st, and then you play later. There's another model where you play a truncated schedule. There's a model where we would play a double round robin in football in a pod in the Northeast. For example, we'd play Rhode Island twice. We'd play Maine twice. I'm talking about the fall sports because that is where a lot of our emphasis is right now because that's imminent. But simultaneously, we're talking about basketball. We're talking about hockey. We're talking about the spring, for example. Another scenario is that football and spring sports or fall sports would flip to the spring, which in one regard, we're well situated for that because, as you guys might know, we have 5 synthetic surfaces. We have a wealth of synthetic surfaces at UNH, which most people don't. But that type of scenario would overlay with basketball championships, hockey championships. It would be mind-boggling for us to pull that off. But again, every single day we're messaging to our people. There's a certain sense of anxiety and people with a helplessness, like how would we possibly do that? You know what, folks? We will do it. We will figure it out because I have a great team. I mean, from my staff in this hallway all the way through our equipment people, we have great committed people, and we'll figure this out.
I'm sure one of the big concerns of basketball, Coach, is if something were to happen with somebody on the basketball team, women's or men's, getting stricken with this, quarantine for 2 weeks, in contact, the idea that you'd have to start and stop, because anytime you have a team and you have to stop what you're doing, it's bad. But with a roster this thin, this small, as is the nature of the sport, I'm sure there's scenarios you don't want to get going and then have to put everything on hold for 2 weeks. I guess Marty and Bill will each answer that one.
Billy, let me jump in. So one of the things that, again, is mind-bending is the protocols that we'll have to satisfy when we have the kids come back. For example, you guys know the field house well. There will be one entrance and a separate exit to the field house. When you come into the field house, and I'm talking about the athletes and the staff, we will probably do temperatures, those thermal temperature checks right at the check-in. You will sign in. We will check and see that you've had your documentation, that you've been tested. We will have to test everybody. We will have continual testing. We're not going to be testing everyone every second day. But in regard to athletes, to answer your question, Murph, I could see we're going to do extensive testing with teams in season. We have to. So what you don't want to do is have them get to the point where they contract COVID. You want to do everything humanly possible to keep them from contracting COVID. I don't need to tell you guys the scariest issue, and the president and I talked about this today. In our world in athletics, we could probably do that. Even on campus in the classrooms, they can do that. But once classes end, once practices end, and they literally grow across the street or they go down to the lodges in the apartments, all hell can break loose. And then all bets are off, right? Right, Coach?
Absolutely. Hey, Marty, Murph, can I just jump in for 1 second, please? Can you hear me?
Yes, Coach, what up? People don't mind hearing from you.
As Marty was talking, and I said this in our last Zoom, I think from like a basketball standpoint, Marty, a winter sport standpoint, the one thing I think we have is a little bit of time here. Mm-hmm. And most of the guys on this Zoom, okay, were of the same age where, guys, you remember college basketball practice started on October 15th. Remember? Forever. And we practiced for 6 weeks. And we did not play our games until Thanksgiving. That's when games started. We didn't have summer school back in the day, right? We all played in like 5 different summer leagues. The game has changed at the college level, obviously, so much. And what I told, so I think from a basketball standpoint, if they had to push our season back, let's just say, I think we're all fine with that. But we all want to try to play games, though. So the one thing I think with our sport is we do have some time on our hands, if I think, Marty.
Yeah, you do. But it'll be upon us pretty quickly, Bill, right?
I know that.
And as I said, I think our biggest concern is all the student athletes together. That's a wonderful thing at UNH that we all live under the roof of this field house. So when the basketball players are intersecting with the soccer players and the soccer players with the field hockey, we have to put a blanket over it all and be sure we're protecting all of them. There's no segregated athletes here, right, Coach?
Exactly. And you look, if you follow like professional sports right now trying to get back going, I read today on ESPN, like the really good guard from the Portland Trailblazers, Damian Lillard. I guess he was quoted saying, listen, if we start back up, he goes, if we're not in the playoffs, I'm not playing. I'm not going to risk it. It's tough times right now trying to get things going. It really is.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be at Disney World. No truth to the rumor that all of us will be sequestered there for an entire season at Disney, like professional sports. But one question that came in, Marty, was, are there discussions where, and this goes to your conversations with the president, I'm sure, would the athletes be housed in one dormitory somehow, or is that too impossible with all students coming on campus?
No, that has not been a discussion, nor will it probably happen here, because down campus, they're struggling what to do with students in dormitories right now. Initially, I think everyone thought it'd be a great idea that everyone would be in a single, that there would be no doubles and certainly no triples. Then they found out that financially that was untenable. That was a $20 million loss by having students stay in singles. So they will be housing students as they typically have, with the exception of no triples, which leaves us no room for having segregated housing for athletes. And by the way, Bill, I don't know this, but I would presume like 80% of our athletes are off campus anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Marty, could I ask, and I don't know if you can answer this or not, like, do we have a feel at the university as far as retention and returning, how they gauge how many students are going to be returning? Do they think in the fall? Like, how does that look?
Well, we don't know yet. I think some of the people on this call realize that we moved the deposit date back for freshman class to June 1st. So this is a big week. And actually, we're tracking okay. It's not awful for the incoming freshman class. We don't know how many kids will not return, Bill. We've modeled, we meaning the university, of which athletics is part of this model, different scenarios where there is a percent of people presumed not to come back, and then the budget follows suit, right? It's all bad. It's just degrees of awful. And I think if we get into that spot where it's about 5 to 7% non-returning, that would be like a best case scenario.
Okay. Other question that came in, two-parter, about the America East. Will their 200-mile rule be reinstated? The rule where two campuses had to be more than 200 miles apart in order to travel the day before. And then sticking with travel, would there be a situation perhaps we had travel partners, a Friday and then a Sunday, Binghamton and Albany, for example?
We are modeling every single scenario. That's the easy answer. We're modeling pods. We're modeling partners. We're modeling mileage. In fact, and the coaches don't know all this, but my sage, wise coaches like Bill and like Sean understand it's not a matter of want, it's a matter of need right now. So there are going to be day trips. We're going old school, man. We're going to be getting on a bus, traveling 3 hours, play a game, get back on the bus, bag lunch, happy for it. And you know what? It's not 200 miles. We are actually today modeling possibly a football game at each institution where they'll travel anywhere between 450 and 550 miles by bus to get to games, because we're trying to cut out all extraneous flights, 1 for safety, 2 for budgetary reasons. We're trying to cut out extraneous overnight stays. All of those sorts of things are being modeled.
Hey, Mike, any chance for Lynn Willie to jump in here?
Yep.
Yes, you've been raising your hand, Len, absolutely.
Well, I've been trying to, but my hand doesn't work too good at my age. Listen, one thing I got to say, I've been around a long time, long time. I hope a lot longer. But out of bad things, good things happen. And I got to tell you, I can't believe that we have a better group of people trying to manage this thing than Marty, Bill, and everybody at UNH. I am so pleased with the way we're interacting that I think out of all this bad stuff, we're going to have good stuff happen. So that's my way of saying amen.
Thank you, Len. You know what, Len? And again, I'm blessed to have really great coaches that I could sit down and talk to that don't have the entitlement and haven't got caught up in what the other guy has and we don't. Guys like Bill. And the fact is, you know what? We've gotten out of control in athletics, guys, right? Over the last 15 years or so. And UNH is guilty of that. We've done a lot of great things. We have a lot of great additions to our physical plant. We've given kids a lot of things that they never got before. and it's about time. We needed a correction. You know, they call that in the stock market when there has to be a correction. In our industry, in the collegiate sport industry, this is a correction. And I don't think it's, to your point, Len, there are some good things that are going to come out of this. A lot of the entitlement that has crept into what we've all done is going to get slapped right off of everyone's face because of this.
Well, Marty, you've answered a lot of questions. I know there's a few more for Bill. Coach, anything else you have specifically for Marty or anybody else for our athletic director who's been facing the music here today? And Len Willie at least likes you, Marty, so that's a good thing. You know, you have somebody at your side.
Len, you can't go anywhere until we're in the dance. Maybe this year.
Hey, listen, to me, I'm in this till we sink or swim, and let's go, baby. I don't want to sink, okay?
Well, we're gonna be swimming this year, Lenny.
All right, so Bill, there is another question. Wayne Morrison wants to know the impact of COVID on recruiting and how you feel about the incoming talent.
Yeah, Wayne, that's a great question. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You know what? I will say this, that with what's gone on, I think it's really forced us as coaches, and I'm not a real technological guy, but I think through this virus, you have to. And this Zoom has been an unbelievable tool for us. It's really been a lifesaver for our basketball program and just the way that we're communicating with the players. I think it's always nice when you're able to talk to at least see people's faces. I think it's tougher sometimes when you have to do everything by the phone. Here's what happened with recruiting in the spring. You know, when we came off of the 5-win season 2 years ago, we were a very young basketball team, freshmen and sophomores, but we had everybody returning. And I said this a couple of weeks ago, like, you could look at that, well, that's good and bad. Well, you know what? It turned out to be really good because the young kids this past year all grew up, got a year older, and we turned the corner. We won 15 basketball games. We did not sign anybody in this past year's recruiting class in the early period because we wanted to evaluate our current players in the program. So what happened was, once the season ended, right after we were supposed to get back from spring break, we signed a guard out of West Virginia, out of Morgantown, West Virginia, KJ McClurg. He's a 6'3", 6'4" combo guard. Very good, very successful high school program in Morgantown, West Virginia. And the week after we were supposed to get back from spring break, he was supposed to make his official campus visit with his family. He was supposed to travel up to UNH to Durham, you know, stay for the weekend, and obviously everything got shut down. So what happened was we were Zooming with the young man and his parents, you know, trying to put the sell on him. And they were sold, but the last thing they said was, listen, you know, we love everything that you're telling us. We would just love to see the campus. So what I did is I went out one weekend right when this first broke out about 2 months ago, and I went on campus on a really early Saturday, Sunday morning with nobody. It was a ghost town with my cell phone, and I walked the campus and I videotaped basically a virtual campus tour as if we had the player and his parents on the visit, and these were the things that we would show them on the visit. And that's how we kind of we signed KJ. We're very happy we got him. We've got 2 transfers coming in. Taylor Matos, who is from Kearsarge High School up in New Hampshire. We tried to recruit him out of high school. He ended up going to Bowling Green out in Ohio for 2 years in the MAC conference. He's a 6'11" kid. He came back to New Hampshire. He's going to sit out this year. And Quan Murphy, a 6'4", 6'5" guard out of Charlotte, North Carolina, who went to Houston Baptist University, will transfer in and sit out as well. We are also taking an invited walk-on this year with this class, a young man by the name of John Willman, who played at Lebanon High School up in New Hampshire, Lebanon, New Hampshire. And if most of you remember Dave Fosher is a UNH alum. He's a grad. He was the head coach at Dartmouth for about 15 years. Dave Fosher and I were assistant coaches at Merrimack College 20, 30 years ago. So I've known Foch for a long time, and Foch coached him at Lebanon High School this past year. We're bringing John Williman in. So Wayne, it's been, you know, now we're moving on to the juniors. that are going to be seniors next year. And we've already Zoomed with about 7 or 8 juniors that are going to be seniors. So everything right now, it hasn't been that bad. I think the real challenge is going to be now, the hard thing is, for the first time in my career, you take Quan Murphy, the young man that transferred from Houston Baptist, and you take KJ McClurg, the young man from West Virginia, and the walk-on. I have not met these guys personally. I've never met them other than on Zoom. So I think that's the challenging part. But we think we hit it right with the recruiting. So we're very happy with the recruiting class, and we have most of our team returning. So I think we've got a really good core and a really good nucleus coming back next year.
All right, a few more questions have come in from Marty while we're here. So Marty, here's one, and this is one that we should have asked earlier. Do you feel like part of the season, at least maybe more, will be played without spectators, as we're hearing about with professional teams?
Yes. I think there's no denying that we're going to have to make significant adjustments in all our venues. We're running through that now. We're looking at best practices, Murph. There's someone on campus that works out of the VP of Administration office who's going around assessing the spaces. My team, led by John Danos and Taylor McCarthy, and our whole outward external relations group is looking at this. I can't tell you what that number will be, but it's probably going to be at the very best half capacity in the facilities. And that rolls into budgetary issues, significant budget issues. We rise and fall on our success in drawing fans into the Whittemore Center for hockey, and that's going to be encumbered quite a bit, and that's going to be a significant revenue issue for us.
You read the mind of the next question, which was, what will men's basketball be able to do or be asked to do to help with the budget shortfall?
Well, right now, some of it is peripheral in regard to support staff and student services. So we have lost considerable money from the NCAA. You guys read about that? I tell people this just so you understand the dramatic effects of what this has done to our budget. We lost in the athletics budget $4 million in 48 hours back in March. We lost $1 million in NCAA distribution monies. And the next day, the university started refunding student fees, which was an additional $3 million. So some of that's going to roll forward. My point is we've lost considerable subsidies by the NCAA, which helps support our student athletes. And frankly, a lot of our underrepresented student athletes, African-American student athletes, particularly Bill's kids, have really flourished under those support systems. That money's gone. And what I mean by that is we've had plenty of kids that have come here from the South or wherever, or from impoverished backgrounds. We've bought them boots. We've bought them coats. These are all allowable under NCAA auspices if they go through the student support fund. So what I think we're going to need to do is replenish those funds through the 603 challenge and contributions to help support our programs, but it's supporting the kids as much as it's supporting the programs, if that makes sense. We're probably going to ding everybody a scholarship or two, to be perfectly frank. I don't want to get down the road of too much bad news, but for example, in America East, as ADs, we've talked for months about cost reduction, put a proposal before the presidents, and the president's created a 2-year waiver that allows us to reduce scholarship, reduce competition. Like, for example, right now, and Bill knows this, if we lose a game, meaning a scheduled game, someone cancels on us, we're not going to refill that game. And that's across all programs. And in the sport of hockey, for example, the Big Ten came out probably 5 weeks ago, and they started canceling contractual games with people, and that caused a disruption everywhere. But that's an enormous cost savings if we don't fly somewhere, for example. Now, the flip side of that in regard to basketball is, and Bill's done a great job of Ken Dempsey, Chris, and Ryan, go out and find money games. So I frankly have asked Bill to go out and find another money game, which he did with NC State. But in effect, it's like adding another loss in the loss column. But these are the types of things we're going to have to do. And we're going to do this across all programs. I mean, soccer's are going to feel pain, field hockey's feeling pain, football, everybody.
Well, let's get to the good news, Bill. I think it's time to bring in our guy, Jack Burns, to remind people. Marty mentioned the 603 challenge. It starts Friday, and when I say Friday at midnight, and we did speak about it a little bit last time, Jack, but the floor is yours to kind of reach out to the diehard supporters of Wildcat basketball.
Hey, Jack,
Go ahead.
before you go, guys, I just want everybody to know that Jack Burns, Paul Bamford, Ken Dempsey, Danny Buzzle, uh, the people in the fundraising department, they have done an unbelievable job of giving their time to our basketball program to help us with endeavors like the 603 Challenge. We Zoom, we meet. It's unbelievably organized, and they've worked tirelessly to help us get this going. It's difficult times. And all I'll say as the head basketball coach at UNH is, if you can help us, we would love for you to help us. Whatever you can do is very, very much appreciated. We feel very confident that we are going to have a basketball season next year, and I think you're going to really like the team that we're going to put on the floor. We got great kids. So, Jack, I want to turn it over to you, and I really mean thank you so much for all of your hard work.
Well, thank you, Billy, and thanks, Marty, for all that information. It actually helps us a great deal when we start to go out and we start to talk to people. And we've got about 17 champions right this minute who are going to start reaching out to our fellow alums and really encourage folks to donate during the 603 Challenge. And this is a strange time, which is a massive understatement. And, Billy and the rest of us, we kind of debated back and forth, how hard do we push? How do we get after this? And we've come to the conclusion that, hey, if the university is going to do it, we're going to do it. And we're going to do our absolute best job that we possibly can. So everybody knows May 29th, 12:01 a.m., line up. There's matching funds available up to $200 per person. And that runs out fast. It's first come, first serve. And you can see in everybody's advertising, all the different sports, they're trying to get people in there early. So we're asking people to donate as early as they possibly can to take advantage of those matching funds. The other thing that's really important is in tough times, it's nice to see people step up. And last year we had what's called a unit challenge, and we had a goal of, I think it was about 100 individual donors that we were looking for. And through a couple of really generous donations, we were able to offer up $5,000 as a bonus. If we hit that number, we were going to get a $5,000 bonus. And through everybody's effort, everybody's contributing, we hit the number. And so this year is no different. The generosity of folks is awesome. And the goal is going to be the same because we think it's really kind of tough times. But the reward is not going to be the same. Through a few people, we're going to have a $10,000 unit challenge. So if we can hit that 100 donors, we're going to get another $10,000 into the program to really help keep things going. And I love the comment and the point of, and everybody I talk to, this is about these student athletes. That a lot of things are going to be taken away. That's life. However, anything that we can do to kind of fill some of those gaps is a huge deal. And these are really good kids. I don't have an opportunity to hang out with them all that much, but every single interaction I have, respectful, thoughtful, working hard. They do want to be in the gym all the time. I'm very proud of what our players and how they represent every single one of us every single time they're out on the court or in public in general. So that's my plea. We're asking people to donate early, and we're hoping we can fill at least some of those huge gaps that Marty was talking about. But thanks to everybody for being on the call, and we hope we'll get the results out to you as soon as we possibly can after it's all said and done. Thanks, you guys.
Hey, Jack, I want to thank you too, you and Paul, and there are a number of really generous guys on this call. Thank you guys. You know what? We couldn't do what we do, and I mean it sincerely, couldn't do without what you're doing for us. So thank you.
You're welcome.
You're here.
All right, well, in a moment, we're going to unmute so everybody can speak to each other, but there is one question I thought it'd be appropriate to end with, Coach, and that was, once we're past this whole COVID-19 situation and we're back to normal, what help do you need to make sure UNH can be on equal footing with the University of Vermont and beat those Catamounts?
Tom Horn asked me that 2.5 weeks ago, right? You know, we made a great jump last year, going from 5 to 15 wins. And like I've said earlier, we have basically a majority of our team returning. When you coach teams, you have a feel. And I've coached long enough. I've really got a feel with this group of guys. I think we're really close to being able to compete for a championship. That's what I keep texting our guys when we talk on the Zooms. It's we've got to keep our goals in mind. You know, when it's different. You know how it is nowadays. It's hard for kids to work out by themselves. They've all got shooting coaches. They've all got workout coaches. They've all got shooting machines. You know, they need the assistant coaches to work them out. Well, you know what? Now it's going to be a test, I think, of their will and their desire and how hungry they are. So, you know, I think we're in a good spot, Murph. I told the parents last night, and I really, really mean this. I really miss the kids. Like Marty said earlier, we love what we do. You know, we live in the gym. We live in the field house. We live in the weight room. That's what we do for a living, and we want to get back to that. You know, and I think I know the players want to get back to that as soon as they can. Marty, I thought you really shared some great information with us.
Thank you.
I thought it was very important to bring Marty on, because I'm sure a lot of you just sit back and wonder, okay, how are things operating at UNH right now? And Marty, you did a terrific job. I want to say thank you.
You're welcome.